have very excited panelists from different aspects of the ecosystem, the IP developers, IP providers, semiconductor companies, and also from the IP legal side of representatives. So before that, let me introduce Paul. Let me ask a quick question. How many of you actually have viewed SemiWiki in the regular basis? All right. Good crowd here. So you look at the device involved from process to PC and post-PC, and you look at the journalism and then technology also move from newsletters, EE-Time, digital version, and now it's wiki. So I'm definitely a fan of SemiWiki and read Paul's and Dan's and articles on a regular basis. Very, very exciting place. To view all the information about semiconductors. And so Paul is a 30-plus years veteran. In his early personal life, he actually was a VP of engineering in Cadence. But now he's a blogger, a journalist to fuse or to tell us what will be the next trend. So today we're very lucky to have him as our moderator for our panel discussion. So let's welcome Paul.
So the format of this is that each of the four people are going to come and present a few slides and sort of lay out their position, and then we'll have everybody up here in these chairs, and I'll ask a couple of questions, and then it's your turn to ask questions of the four people. So we've got a mixture of people here, as we were just saying, Marvell and Intel, who basically design chips and, as far as I know, don't really license any IP. Arasan, that is basically in the IP business, and as far as I know, doesn't really design any chips at all, apart from maybe some test chips. And then Will from the sort of legal side to talk about some of the sort of licensing aspects of IP. So first person up is Younghwa Song from Marvell. He's been there for a long time, 15 years or so. Prior to that was Philips, which then became NXP, of course, Philips Semiconductors. I noticed they'd missed the S out in the book here, but I got trained on how to put that in because I was at VLSI that also got acquired by NXP. And I think his presentation should come up here. What do I need to do? Okay. I'll give you the controller.
Okay, good afternoon. Okay, thanks Paul for introduction, and since Liang or the CASPA invite me here, so I will be very happy to enjoy this afternoon with you guys. Beginning first half, I think we have two good presenters already draw big picture what's coming, right? What kind of area, basically connected device, mobile, then it's big market evolving. Yeah, we are in that market also, but how to get in there? And then in terms of SoC challenge, second speaker already talked about this. Now back to the business, how do we really talk about IP, buy or build it? So first of all, let me introduce what we're doing, give a little background on Marvell. So Marvell is a company founded in 95. Yeah, so basically we are always the oscillation between top three, top five. The fabless company, depending on what business up and down or at the competitor side. So we have totally around 7,000 people, and with globally, the pattern over 2,000 and 3,000 applications there. So we are shipping 1 billion chip per year around the range. So if we look at basically we are kind of Marvell is a company, is technology-driven company. Compared with also, it's kind of we are also in multiple second market. So it's globally here. In terms of technology, here I just want to show like what kind of technology spectrum we are covering. So top one is the power management side, which is under my responsibility. This is I'm running central engineer side, so it also cover some standard product. So then we have storage, which is our starting point. Like HDD is really starting the business of our bread and butter. It's like we are 70% market share roughly. So now a new market, SSD coming in. People already worry about like, oh, HDD gonna die or what. But reality is not gonna be like this. It's kind of still, look today is cloud-based. So many data, just like John presented, so many data created. So you need a lot of storage. Hard disk is still most of the chips cost-effective way to store those kind of data. But of course, the new portable application, you need SSD. We are also in the market. Yeah, we are leading the market also. So of course, we have all kind of network storage side. So you talk about computing side, we are kind of we also license, we are few company with the ARM architecture license. So we also enhance ARM core in terms of speed performance. So we have a 3D, all kind of, you can name, it's all kind of video processing, audio, video, multi-core. We kind of this area also very strong. We also server area use ARM core. Then fourth one, connectivity, really talking about connectivity, like John already mentioned, connected device. Really is connect all kind of, besides processing, right? Today, if you look at our system, first of all, either CPU to processing, then either storage, store the data. Then between that, you need connectivity. Basic connectivity means like you have multi-level connectivity. One is just, for example, short distance connectivity, like chip to chip, or device to device. Short use wire or wireless. So this area actually is a lot of standard involving. The IP we talk about at home is those areas have a lot of IP involved in there. So connectivity talk about 2G, 3G, LTE area, which is smartphone. You engage also Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, those kind of new Zigbee for automation. So you can see like also for like wire communication, gigabit Ethernet, also optical one, UPAN, EPAN, GPAN application. High-end, even high-end switching. So we are kind of in the area, pretty much all semiconductor area you can cover. Yeah, I can say like in this semiconductor industry, we are most technology diversified company. Even though we are not big one, compared the big giant one, they are bigger than us. But in terms of technology-wise, we are most technology-rich company. This is yeah. So which means we do a lot of IP work there, of course. So yeah, maybe back there. My role is basically beside running the power management side, also supporting all this basically product line. We develop our development also develop all core mixing IP, supporting all these applications. So what we promote is like as Marvell today is we are kind of promoter is a connective lifestyle. It's a kind of what smart platform. First, we talk about cloud-based. We have our high-end switch, the high-end server area. We have like the homes, like a cloud, like private cloud, public cloud. We all have this solution to different application side. So also storage, you already mentioned, HDD and SSD. We are all both is market leader there. So then network side already covered is the kind of switch, high-end switching side. We work with Cisco, Juniper, Huawei, ZTE, all these are our customers. Yeah. The digital entertainment side is kind of new area. We kind of, some people may be aware, we are partnering with Google very closely to Google TV side, where they announced from Google TV Gen 2 to V2, now V4. We kind of, even though market is still not pick up yet, we kind of engage with Google to promote the smart TV. Basically, it's a multi-panel connectivity side also, from smartphone to TV to tablet. The mobile side, and also one area, people surprised that we do smart energy also. So if you look at that today, we are even very complex switching chip. We also do LED driver chip. Maybe people may be surprised. We build best LED drive chip with also not just LED drive, with Zigbee, with smart connectivity. So like people use your smartphone to control your home from lighting to all appliance. This is the John just talked about. Yeah, this function also under me. I'm driving this kind of new area about smart MCU area for connected device. Okay, so this is just some background in general, given what we do here. So here, I think key point here, I want to highlight now, get the topic here is make or buy. I think it really depends on few factors, at least a few factors in terms of IP-wise. First of all, technology-wise. This is technology-wise. If as a company, when we talk about you want to buy IP or build IP, is really driven by, first of all, it's the technology. Do you have the technology know-how? What's your competitive strength? So can you build better IP? Even if you build IP, the purpose, you have to build a better one. Otherwise, you can, unless you cannot license or something you cannot license, you have to build yourself. So I think the fundamental key is technology know-how. Then of course, you want to build IP, you want to have a market advantage, competitive advantage, you can be a low power, better performance, low cost. All these kind of factors you consider. Of course, I already mentioned availability. Second piece, I think this is a very important piece people usually missing, is the financially, whether when you build anything, eventually, it's whether your investor return. You can build some IP, what's usage very low, right? You have to be, like Marvell, why we build so many IP? Because I have so many products. Every year we have over 100 SoC to build by the company. So you need all kind of different IP. So that's why we have a strong IP team internally to build all this IP. Yeah. So being an opportunity, basically, I talk financial side. Then marketing side also, IP important is time to market. Very important. We build most advanced, for example, today we talk about 14 or 16 nanometer. Those IP you cannot license. You have to build your own. Okay. Yeah. So let's just quickly flip it here. Yeah. So it's also the last one is the quality of the IP integrity and the IP interoperability. I think maybe here just a category, two kind of company, the point of view, they look at the IP. Say for example, if your company is a market leader or your technology leader like Marvell, Broadcom, Qualcomm, those companies, their strategy, like their position, they dealing with cutting edge technology. They're dealing with a multi-market segment or high volume also. So their strategy is kind of obvious. They have to be a strong in-house IP team because they cannot expose their success to liability outside the IP provider. So they did, for example, IP, you have three categories here. Most general purpose IP, mixed signal, you have to be yourself because those area, first of all, there are a lot of innovation there because given the power performance requirement, you have to, they are not, even though people say A2D. Today the A2D, talk about 5 years, 10 years, very different. So you need a lot of innovation there. So that's the first place to have a competition strength. This area you build your own. Then also you make all kind of IP you cannot license. For example, Wi-Fi. Nobody license a Wi-Fi for you. You don't have AC. You have to build your own. Those kind of also LTE, PHY, those kind of area. Also even high speed service, 25, 50 gig service. You cannot license. No way to license. You have to build your own. Then of course you need to license something. This is strategy play. You need a CPU, GPU. This is ecosystem issue, software compatibility. You do yourself, you kill yourself. Nobody uses it. Right? So you have to license from ARM, right? This is proven. So also, of course, some special, like sometimes you do a bit SoC, you miss some IP, you internal result constraint, or because the digital IP more portable between the process, relatively, compare analog IP, you basically too complicated across process. So they can license those kind of IP for technical play. The justification I already mentioned is competition advantage, time market, or product risk. You have to do your own, then also cost effective. Well, here, for other company, your tier 2, tier 3, or your system company like Cisco, you build ASIC, or those kind of system company, your point of view is different. Your point of view like, okay, your product is relatively, it's not necessary to use cutting edge process. IP readiness is there. You can license, you have opportunity license there. Your focus niche market or volume level very high. Your strength is to focus your key technology portion, maybe some kind of accelerated processor. For example, Cisco, they have the routing algorithm, or some SSD company, they have special LDPC code, but they can license PCIe other IP. So for those kind of company, they license most of the general purpose. This overhead for them because to to have build those kind of big IP team is very costly. So it's not cost effective. So that's why they license majority one and build some differential one. The justification I already mentioned is like for time to market purpose, also risk, right? So I think that this in general, I try to, since time limited, when I build this, I realized too many things to talk about. But anyway, I just packed this for starting point. My summary here, the key points is a very different based on IP buy or license, based on your company position. But fundamentally, you need a differential factor. You want the success in marketplace. Okay.
So next is Andy Haynes from Arasan. I've known him for over 30 years. In fact, before I came to the US, when I interviewed with VLSI Technology, he was one of the people I interviewed with, since he was the 8th employee of VLSI, and I didn't get there until there were 130 people there. Anyway, right now he's the marketing guy for Arasan, which is an IP licensing company. Andy.
Thank you. So I'm representing Arasan Chip Systems, and we do IP. We do a lot of IP for the mobile markets, mobile phones. So this is connectivity connectivity IP, and it's standards-based IP. So we have the broadest line of MIPI products. We have the leading market share for SD, eMMC, and we've been participating in the standards bodies for all of these things for many years. So there's a deep set of knowledge around these different kinds of IP. So excuse me, you can see on my teeter-totter here, it shows that buy is definitely the thing to do. So given our position in the market, you might expect that's what my position would be. I want to convince you that that's the right thing. There's a lot of trends that are moving in this direction. To make it make more sense to buy IP rather than to make your own IP for more and more companies. And there are exceptions, but I think you'll see that this is the overwhelming trend. Before we start with that, let's just look at the mega trends in smartphones. So John Heinlein mentioned this earlier in his presentation, the ARM presentation. But you have this segmentation going on in smartphones. And smartphones are the biggest thing happening in semiconductors, right? It's the fastest growing market. There's billions being made. And what we see now is this high-end versus low-end. And I used some numbers from a company called ABI Research. There's a lot of similar numbers for this that put the separation at $250 or $300. It doesn't really matter, but there are going to be these two segments emerging. And the segment is the low-end segment, which is going to be sold mostly in those countries with low penetration of smartphones so far, is going to be the fastest growing one. As you can see, it's going to grow at a substantially higher rate and become about half the market by 2017, 2018. So that's a mega trend, and it turns out that is relevant for the IP market because it is affecting the way that IP are being defined and used. And I want to show you a couple of examples here. So there's two slides here that are under category of increased IP variety. This is one of the things that is going to drive a choice to buy IP rather than make IP. In the flash area, there's a number of different standards, a bunch of standards actually, but for mobile, there's two that are most interesting. One is called eMMC, that's a JEDEC standard, and it's an embedded chip. It comes in a chip form. It's not something you plug into your phone, but it comes in a chip, and it's in almost every smartphone these days. And your code, the processor code boots out of that ROM, and then it's also used for data storage. It's very important for the performance of the phone. And eMMC has been the dominant technology, and it's defined by the IEEE JEDEC Standards Committee. And they, a few years ago, decided they were going to make a new standard called UFS, Universal Flash Storage, which was going to enable much higher performance. And and they've done it, the UFS is out, and the first companies, and Ericsson licenses UFS technology, by the way, the first companies are implementing their devices with that. But what's happened now with this, this bifurcation in the smartphone market is that we see the eMMC is the incumbent technology, it's produced in high volume, it's also increasing in speed. It's probably going to be used, continue to be used for a long time, but especially in this low-end market. And UFS, which has up to over 12 gigabits per second performance, which is about 4x the eMMC, is going to be something that's used in the high-end smartphones. You'll see a differentiation in terms of that differentiation will affect the performance of the phones, just like the different processor choices will. So that's one thing that's happening. There's something very similar happening in the MIPI standards organization. The MIPI Alliance does a lot of standards for phones. They do cameras, displays, and so forth. And as I said, we Ericsson have a very wide variety of this kind of technology. And I was just in Warsaw at the their most recent face-to-face meeting, and we talked in the one of the working groups, the camera working group, about the CSI-2 versus CSI-3. So again, the standard evolved. There was CSI-2 that's been in production for a number of years. There are lots of camera modules that can be purchased with it, and basically this standard connects a camera module, so the little camera thing that's in your phone connecting to the application processor chip somewhere inside, and there's two links to that, two sides of that connection, and the CSI-2 interface is what's used to make that connection. Now CSI-3 is coming out, and we talked about CSI-3 and what's it going to do. It's going to allow much faster autofocus. It's going to have much shorter shutter lag. Today when you click your phone, it takes a while for that shutter to fire, and you can't click it again right away like you can a digital still camera. But that's going to change. In addition, there will be richer color depth, and there's a bunch of other features that come with CSI-3. So this standard was just defined and ratified a few months ago, so there's no phones out with this camera yet. But when it does come out, probably sometime next year, so I'm going to buy one because I get very excited. This is going to be a phone in your camera, which is going to be just about as good as any digital still camera you could get. It'll make a huge differentiation. But because it's going to be new, there's going to be costs associated with it. So it's not going to go into those low-end phones. CSI-2 is going to go into the lowest-end phones. The modules that have been in production for a long time, they'll be coming down in cost because of the volume, et cetera. CSI-3 will go into the high-end phones. So two different ways that IP variety is increasing. And of course, if you are making your own IP, increasing variety is a problem because that means you have twice as many interfaces to do as you did before. Now, so you call that complexity. I'm going to come up with this other sort of definition of complexity here. So there's IP complexity has been increasing along a lot of different vectors over the last few years, and one of the ways is illustrated here. These are the names of the different standards bodies, and the standards bodies in some specific IP pieces there. So there's all those different standards bodies. You have to stay on top of those standards bodies. And as this piece that just came up shows, what you also have to keep track with all of the changes in the standard. So for example, the top one there is eMMC. In just the last 2 years, it went from 4.4.1 to 4.5 to 4.5.1 to 5. So you have to maintain backward compatibility across all those things and be able to support, be right there when that standard changes, your IP needs to support that. So there's a huge burden on making all of this stuff work all the time. In addition, the complexity of the individual pieces are getting larger as well. There's one big piece that is affecting IP of pretty much every type, which is that all of the standards are going to analog interfaces to reduce power and improve speed. And that I just got a time's up thing, sorry. So I'll try to hurry up here a little bit. So you have all these different standards. big increases in complexity, and also there's multiple layers you have to worry about. Like the UFS is got 3 different, a combination of 3 different standards. So all of that is difficult to control. And in fact, it's so difficult to control. We've seen a big change recently in this make-or-buy decision. So that the very biggest memory makers have traditionally done all the IP themselves. But when UFS came along, they stopped doing that. They started licensing because UFS is an extremely complex technology. It's got analog, and you have to have interoperability features as well. So the last slide here is on the solutions. And so not only do you have to cope with all these different kinds of complexity, but you have to have solutions for this. If you're going to build IP, you're not just building some piece of digital IP. You have to build digital IP, analog IP, you have to have software stacks and drivers, you have to have FPGA boards or systems for doing validation, and you have to have verification IP. So all that package has to be moved along, for all these standards through all of these different phases that I just described. So for all those reasons, IP is getting to be something that you definitely want to buy, not make. Thanks.
Okay, so next is Will Chen. If you want to license some IP from somewhere, then at some point contracts and things are going to get involved, and you can't avoid lawyers when that sort of thing starts to happen. There are various aspects of IP, some around patents, some around just around the general licensing. Anyway, Will will come and tell us about them.
My name is Will Chen, and I'm a partner of a law firm called Finnegan. Finnegan is one of the largest and best intellectual property law firm. We have about 1,000 employees and have about 400 attorneys, and only do intellectual property work. The IP I work with and I'm going to talk about is actually slightly different than the IP the previous speakers have talked about. The previous speakers were talking about silicon IP, and it refers to, like, I think you guys know the best circuit designs, the inventions in the circuit. And the IP, legal IP, is built on silicon IP. Legal IP refers to the legal rights that can protect the silicon IP. Mainly, includes patents, trade secrets, mask works, and legal IP and silicon IP, work close together. Today, when we talk about legal IP, like patents, most people will think about Apple, Samsung, worldwide patent litigations. There are, between Apple and Samsung, there are maybe like dozens, maybe close to 100 patent litigations around the globe. They have many in the US, and they have many litigations, patent litigations. They sue each other in Europe, in Korea, in Japan. And many of them actually involve the semiconductor chip inside the cell phone. And before this worldwide patent war started, about 4 years ago, there was another worldwide patent war between two major semiconductor companies. You probably lots of them know some of them may work with these two companies, Qualcomm and Broadcom. They from 2005 to 2009, there were many patent litigations between these two companies, just about the silicon IP, but they have patents on the silicon IP, so they sue each other. And they have litigations in the US, district courts, in International Trade Commission, in Europe, in Korea. And in 2009, they eventually settled all the litigations between them. And Qualcomm eventually agreed to pay close to $1 billion to Broadcom. And they also cross-licensed all their patents. So they agree, they won't sue each other, and each other can use the other's patents. So legal IP plays a very important role. Other than this litigation, there are many, many more patent litigations among semiconductor companies, on the patents built on silicon IP. Like for example, Marvell had a big one. You probably know, saw the news, and there are many, many others. So legal IP plays a very important role in semiconductor business and also in making make or buy decisions. And for example, if a company develops some good silicon IP, if you don't have good patents to protect your silicon IP, other companies probably won't license your technology because they can use it for free, right? Why they want to pay your licensing fee? And if the company develop a good silicon IP, if they don't have good trade secret protection, and other companies may just try to hire your engineers and to develop the products by their own. And lots of like in China, the IP protection is not as good as the U.S. and lots of companies, they try to do things by their own because they can get free silicon IP. They can hire other companies, engineers to do that. And I'm going to talk about legal issues, when that can be involved in making make or buy decisions. So when you want to make by your own, you want to design the IP by your own, before you invest your resources in design the silicon IP, you probably need to do some patent searches. Like you want to find out whether other players or competitors already have some key patents in this area. If they do have some patents in this area, you want to consider whether you can design around those patents. Right? If you cannot design around, maybe you want to approach them early before you invest your resources. At that time, because you have other choices, right? You can either design around, you can license this from this company or from other companies. You may have you may get a pretty good deal. If you already invest a lot of resources and already have the products and then got sued for patent infringement, at that time it's too late. You can still negotiate, but it's too late to get a pretty good deal. And if you want to make by yourself, if the IP owners, by IP owners I mean both silicon and legal IP owners, they have blocking patents, and what can you do at this time? Can you still develop your own IP? For example, Qualcomm first developed the CDMA technology, and they have also lots of patents on this standard, right? And if some company want to develop same technology, it probably does not make sense to do that, because if you try to make your own, Qualcomm will use its patents to maybe bury they can initiate tons of litigations and eventually maybe able to stop you to do that. So, but if you really want to make your own, can you still to do that? Can you still be able to do that? If you want to do that, you have to develop your own patent portfolio. By develop your own patent portfolio, you can either, for example, develop your own differentiation technology, like Yonghua said, or you can acquire some patents. And eventually, to achieve a goal that the IP owner like Qualcomm, they own some patents, cover some standard, right, key technology, and you have some other patents cover some other area. that Qualcomm may also use. So, so then you can go to Qualcomm, you can negotiate with them. You can say, see, I want to use your technology, like CDMA standard. And you have patents to cover these areas. But I really don't want to pay you because I have some patents in other areas that you will have to use. So we can sit down and sign a cross-licensing agreement. So Qualcomm can allow you to use their technology, their patents, and then you can get access to Qualcomm's technology and their patents. I think Broadcom Broadcom is like compared to Qualcomm is a few years late to come to the market. I think that's how Broadcom did it. And if you want to buy or license silicon IP, there are still some legal risks because having a license does not mean that you won't be sued by others, because in the market, lots of other companies have patents in the same area. And if you license from Qualcomm and Broadcom may have some patents cover the same technology, and they may also sue you for patent infringement. So you still need to do some due diligence. And you need to sign a good agreement when you license silicon IP. One important a part of the agreement is indemnification. What that means is if because of you using like Ericsson's or some other companies design a chip and you are sued for patent infringement by a third party, and the supplier has to like indemnify you, has to defund you in the patent litigation or pay any damages that if you eventually lose the patent litigation, you are asked to pay the penalty. So the supplier has to pay for that. So by that way, you can like secure some warranty. You just lower your legal risk. So that's my part, and I welcome any questions after that.
So our fourth panelist, Yi-Hung Chi from Intel, which is of course the world's biggest semiconductor company, and as far as I know, they aren't particularly significant in the IP licensing business. They kind of design their own microprocessors, and everybody else licenses ARM. Yi-Hung runs the Technology and Methodology Group for internal IP development, so he develops the IP that other parts of Intel use. But so go ahead.
I'll try to go quickly so we can get to the fun part of the panel. And also because I think the previous speakers have already covered many of the things that I was going to talk about. Now,
an idea of 5 minutes.
Right.
Longer than my idea of 5 minutes.
Now, I think if people think of a company that might come up here and say, oh, you should build all your IP, probably Intel is one company that you would think would say that. But even Intel, despite Paul's observation that we're the #1 semiconductor company, we can't build all of the IP. So we also have to buy some of the IP, and I'll talk a little bit about some of the things we think about when we make those decisions. I think I'll skip over the environment pretty quickly. People have already touched on this before. Obviously, there are a lot of players, and every company is looking at how they can differentiate. Clearly, more and more functions are being integrated on die. So even in the old PC space, you can see that we've been adding more and more to the CPU, memory controller, PCI Express, voltage regulation, media encode, decode, and so on. And obviously, that trend is also there for things like smartphones, tablets, and embedded industrial, and so on. The environment's very dynamic, so you know, TTM is really critical, short product life cycle. So how do you get there, you know, both the pre-silicon time as well as your time in post-silicon validation. And also in the environment we have today, people want complete reference platforms with software, so you've got to have that entire vertical stack. And people even want choices after you've given them a reference platform. Okay, so in terms of what we look at when we decide what we want to build and what we want to buy. So obviously, from a strategic perspective, you think first about where do you want to differentiate. And there are many, many different vectors, and different companies differentiate in different ways. So, you know, features is an obvious one. Performance might be another one. Some competitors are going to differentiate on cost. Some people want to be ahead of the market in terms of different features. Others might actually want to stay behind, you know, utilize low-cost process technology, things like that. Some people are going to provide their advantage in the software that they have. Another thing we think about is whether the IP is standard-based or proprietary, because if something is standards-based, typically the opportunity to differentiate might be slightly lower, but it's not completely without opportunities to differentiate even when there's a standard. And of course, if you are a big enough player and want to help drive that standard, that may be a reason to actually invest to build IP in that area, even though you actually may have good alternatives outside. I think something that people touched on before is IP is definitely not static these days. Standards are moving very quickly, and so it's important for us to understand the roadmap. And if we know that something is very dynamic and it's still moving very quickly, that may be a reason why we would prefer to build. Something that's sort of very stable, very mature, that's one where you will typically have very good choices outside, and you may just want to buy that. Okay. Obviously, there are financial considerations. You know, what's the cost? You know, licensing, royalties, that type of things. There's the R&D constraints on what to build. So again, even with Intel's budget, we can't afford, you know, to do R&D to build everything. I think Will touched on some legal issues, and those are things we have to look at as well. You know, are there alternative suppliers? What happens if a supplier goes out of business, or what happens if they're acquired by another competitor? Right? And then finally, of course, there are technical attributes of the IP. So what's the power performance for that particular IP? You know, how good is it in terms of die area? Does it impose certain package requirements on you? How easy is it to integrate? What is the completeness of the solution? So I think Beatrice mentioned this, right? It's very difficult if you have to pull all these individual pieces of IP and make them all work together. So the preference is that you have subsystems, so larger pieces that are known to work together. I did want to mention that, you know, there's between the space of building and licensing, there are other options. An obvious one that's there for bigger companies is acquisition. So if you don't have the ability or don't want to try to build an IP from the ground up, but you feel that it's important to have that, you may go out and acquire a company that that has that IP. There are also the possibility of models where there's some hybrid. So, you know, for instance, there are companies which license ARM. Some of them license the ARM implementation. Others, like Qualcomm or Apple, build their own implementation. And then I think the last one I just wanted to mention is, as we go further and further and the difficulty of building your own IP continues to grow, I think there might be more options where you could look at trying to build an IP with a partner, and whether that partner is an IP company or maybe even you know, a different SoC integrator. Okay. So I'm actually finished ahead of time, so I think we can get to the panel. So I think my 5 minutes was more like 3 minutes. Okay.
Okay, so all four of you come up here.